Chapter 522. In the dim yellow sky, an evil sun shone on the earth. The evil sun was constantly radiating the evil and chaotic power of the abyss. The streets of Desolate Town were filled with a strong smell of sulfur, mixed with a faint smell of blood. Although killing was forbidden in Desolate Town, it was only on the surface. As long as one was not discovered, the guards would not interfere. Therefore, it was not as safe as one imagined. Sulen walked on the street expressionlessly. He knew that there were many eyes behind him. Without stopping in the town, Sulen hurriedly walked out of the town. As soon as he left the town, he immediately sped up and ran towards the wilderness. Before he started fishing, Sulen had found a suitable place nearby. Now, he was going to lure the demons there. Seeing Sulen fleeing, the demons behind him were not anxious at all. Instead, they vigilantly looked at the demons who had the same idea as them. In their opinion, Sulen was a fat sheep on the chopping board. They could eat him however they wanted. The only problem was that many demons had their eyes on this fat sheep. A dozen high-grade soul crystals were enough to tempt these high-grade demons. Demons could absorb soul power to enhance their strength. A dozen high-grade soul crystals could even make a high-grade demon evolve into a legendary demon. These demons could not resist this temptation at all. About half an hour later, Sulen stopped at a call, and then quietly waited for the fish he had caught. "They're here." Sulen's eyes flashed. Then, he suddenly pointed to a place not far away. Anti-magic field. A strange power descended from the sky and instantly shrouded the surrounding area. At this moment, the area seemed to have been sealed. All demons, and humans seemed to have been isolated from the abyssal plane at this moment. The original spell-like abilities had all lost their effect. At this moment, no matter how stupid these demons were, they knew that the guy they had treated as a fat sheep was actually a peerless beast. 17. Seems like we have a good harvest this time. Sulen's voice sounded in the ears of these demons. Upon hearing Sulen's voice, the expressions of the demons changed drastically. Without thinking, they turned around and tried to escape. However, as soon as they moved, more than a dozen lightning bolts fell from the sky and struck them instantly. The powerful power of lightning instantly paralyzed the bodies of these demons. Immediately after, countless lightning bolts descended from the sky, instantly enveloping all the demons. With Sulen's current strength, these demons that had yet to reach the legendary level wouldn't be able to last long against the lightning that he summoned. There's a little mouse here. Sulen raised his hand and threw a bolt of lightning at a thorny bush on the side. Lightning flashed, and the space was instantly torn apart by the lightning. A tall figure jumped out in a sorry state, and the lightning whip instantly trapped the figure. This was a high-level succubus. She had tried to escape by hiding in the dimensional space, but Sulen had torn the space apart and caught her. Stop. I didn't mean to offend you. My master is Red Shroud. The succubus shouted the moment she was caught by Sulen. She was afraid that she would end up like those demons earlier if she was a second late. The opponent was unexpectedly powerful. She didn't have any room to resist and was restrained in an instant. Sulen stopped what he was doing, and the dazzling lightning in his hand gradually dispersed. Seeing this, the succubus heaved a sigh of relief. She was almost scared to death just now. Your master is Red Shroud? Sulen waved his hand, and the succubus that was bound by the lightning whip flew to him. Yes, my master is Red Shroud. After hearing Sulen's question, the succubus nodded and said, "Why are you following me?" Sulen asked directly. He didn't intend to kill this succubus. If he did, it was likely that the ruler of the broken region, Red Shroud, would be attracted. Red Shroud was the lord of the Rift Plane. She could obtain a plane bonus here and was a powerful demon lord. There were rumors that Red Shroud was the daughter of the succubus queen, Mechanut. There were also rumors that Red Shroud was an incarnation of Mechanut. However, no matter which one it would be very difficult to deal with. Red Shroud had ruled this layer of the abyss for thousands of years. She hadn't been overthrown until now, so one could imagine how powerful she was. Sulan didn't want to offend her so easily, not to mention her relationship with Mechanut. There were two most dangerous women in the bottomless abyss. One of them was the Spider Queen, Lolth, and the other was this succubus queen who had lovers all over the universe. Who knew when she would be in the mood to ask her lover for help? The Rift Plane was the core battlefield of the Abyss Blood War. Many demon lords left their flags here. The succubus queen was not an easy person to deal with. I just followed to take a look. The succubus said embarrassedly. Really, just to take a look? Sulan looked at the succubus and said with a faint smile. It's true. Her Excellency Red Shroud asked us to pay attention to the powerhouses who came to the abyss to collect information. There were more than a dozen higher demons in the tavern moving together, which naturally attracted our attention. This is just a routine check. We don't mean to target you. Seeing Sulan's expression, the succubus quickly said. Well, I'll believe you for now. But you may have to stay here for a while. Sulan smiled gently, and then lightning flashed. Thunder Prison. Lightning instantly fell and completely wrapped the succubus in front of him. The endless power of thunder and lightning entangled with each other and directly formed a cage completely woven with the power of thunder and lightning. Well, as long as you stay in the Thunder Prison, I'll guarantee your safety. If you don't. Sulan smiled slightly, grabbed a weapon made of abyss magic iron, and then threw it on the Thunder Prison. The dazzling lightning instantly exploded, and the weapon made of abyss magic iron melted into drops of molten iron. Don't touch the lightning. Otherwise, you'll end up like these things. Sulan smiled gently, and then pointed at the charred demons not far away. The succubus only felt a chill rising from the bottom of her heart. Sullen's smile made her feel that it was the most terrifying thing. She subconsciously nodded, and did not dare to have the slightest intention of refusing. Very good. It seems that we have reached a consensus. Sulan nodded, and then said with a smile, Don't worry. This Thunder Prison can only exist for a day. After the time is up, it will automatically disappear. Of course, if you feel that you're strong enough, you can also try to leave from inside. The succubus's beautiful head shook like a rattle drum, and repeatedly promised that she would not leave until the Thunder Prison completely disappeared. After locking up the succubus, Sulan continued to deal with the dozen or so demons and evil spirits. After the electrotherapy just now, the severely mentally ill patients had all been cured. Next, Sulan began to collect the rewards. Rays of light flashed, and the souls of these demons were sealed in magic gems by Sulan. Looking at the dozen or so high-grade soul crystals in his hand, this fishing operation was successfully completed. After cleaning up everything on the battlefield, Sulan began a new round of fishing operation. After changing into another alias, Sulan changed to another place this time. This was not the only trading market and bar in the Broken Zone. Soon, Sulan came online again. After changing to another market, Sulan again accidentally leaked a large number of soul crystals. Then, he left the trading market in a panic and hurriedly left the town. After that, there was no after. In a remote wasteland, Sulan once again harvested a dozen or so high-grade soul crystals. After changing into another alias, Sulan repeated the previous routine. At this time, Sulan had to rejoice. The chaotic, evil, and selfish nature of the abyss demons was really too good. With such a simple fishing technique, those demons would easily take the bait without the slightest doubt. Those demons, for example, were not so easy to bait. After fishing a few times, Sulan still did not catch a single demon. Although the process of harvesting the demon's wool was very smooth, he could not harvest only one demon's wool. If there were too many of them, it would definitely attract the attention of others. Even the demons, who were naturally chaotic and evil, were not fools. Therefore, after completing 5 fishing attempts, Sulan left the Broken Zone and went to other places in the 10,000 Abyss Plain. After these few fishing attempts, Sulan also obtained a lot of information about the Abyss, such as the Abyss Blood War. The demon lords of the bottomless abyss all had their demon legions join the Abyss Blood War. The Abyss Blood War was not only a battle between demons and demons, but also between demons and demons sometimes. Thousands of demons and demons fought in the vast abyss. When exactly did the Abyss Blood War start? No one could say for sure now. The Abyss Blood War had already broken out in the years before civilization was recorded. At first, the opponents of the Abyss Blood War were not demons, but the ancient gods of order. However, this battle lasted for too long. The number of demons seemed to be endless, and even the ancient gods of order were tired of it. Later, the ancient gods of order created a kind of intelligent life, which were warriors and servants with wings. The ancient gods of order gave them divine spells, and these glorious creatures were called angels. In the following time, these angels replaced the ancient gods of order to fight the endless demon legions. Among all the angels, Asmodeus was the bravest and most beautiful angel. She was also the archangel of all the angels. She killed more demons than the other angels, and even the gods were not as many as she killed. But after endless years, as the angels on the front line, they were also infected with some of the enemy's characteristics. Chapter 523. After fighting with the demons for a long time, these angels began to be infected with some of the characteristics of the demons. Their beautiful appearance began to become ugly, and their strength became more powerful. The gods of order and other angels were also afraid of them. In the end, under the request of the residents of heaven, the gods of order expelled Asmodeus, and Asmodeus was asked to be judged in front of the god of valor. Asmodeus gladly accepted the accusation, and then he found provisions from the book of order that were helpful to him, and he used these provisions to defend himself. In the end, he succeeded in getting what he wanted with his own cleverness, and the gods of order could only accept it. From then on, this former archangel, the bravest warrior of the gods of order, became the master of the 9 hells of Bator, the archdevil. Of course, as a condition, the demons led by Asmodeus had to stop the demons. This was also the origin of the Abyss Blood War. Every day, there were countless demons fighting on the battlefield of the Abyss Blood War. Countless demons died every moment, and there would be countless lesser demons and dretches born under the laws of the plane to continue fighting. The Abyss Blood War had even become a rule. In the Abyss Blood War, killing the enemy could absorb the enemy's power. For those who wanted to level up or those who wanted to rely on the Abyss Blood War to become stronger, this was the fastest place to become stronger. A low-level dretch could directly advance into a Hezru after a blood war. If he could survive a few blood wars, he could even advance into a 6-armed Marillion, Assassin, Baylor, and other high-grade demons. There were even rumors that there were gods who fell in the Abyss Blood War, but what was frightening was that the gods who died in the Abyss Blood War could no longer be resurrected. So basically, all the gods chose to withdraw from the Abyss Blood War, and at most, they would only send some believers to participate. This strange rule made many powerful beings cautious. Even the demon lords and the archdevils of hell rarely took the risk to go into battle. The Abyss Blood War was the place with the most high-grade demons and high-grade devils, but Sulen did not even have the slightest idea of getting close to the Abyss Blood War. Although his strength was not bad, he was still far from the gods. Even the gods could fall, so he did not feel that he was stronger than those gods. Of course, after the bloody battle, a large number of high-ranked demons were born, and even legendary demons were born. This place became a training ground for abyssal lords and archdevils. Sulen didn't care about the bloody battle in the abyss. After collecting information, he went to other towns and used the same fishing method to obtain a large number of soul crystals. However, it was a pity that this fishing operation did not catch any legendary demons. After staying in the abyss for some time, Su Luan discovered that the legendary demons and demon lords of the abyss were completely different from ordinary chaotic, evil, and brainless demons. They were deceitful and treacherous, not in the least bit inferior to devils. Those simple-minded demon lords had already been killed by all kinds of schemes and machinations. Of course, the only exceptions were the powerful existences who could ignore schemes and machinations, such as demon princes. None of the surviving demons were simple. Finally, after another fishing operation, Sulen had accumulated about 500 high-grade soul crystals in his hands. After this period of fishing, even the chaotic demons finally realized that there was not much left to do. Next, Sulan went fishing again, but the profits were obviously much lower. He knew that this fishing operation was about to end. After leaving his coordinates in the abyss, Sulan activated the teleportation coordinates that Hathaway had left for him. A teleportation light soared into the sky, and in the next second, Sulan's figure disappeared from the bottomless abyss. Northern Wilderness, North Town City, North Wind Tower, Astrology Platform. A beam of light descended from the sky, and Sulan's figure appeared on the astrology platform. Phew, I'm finally back. Sulan let out a long sigh of relief. Welcome back. Hathaway, who had hurried over, said with a smile, looking at you, you must have had a good harvest. I've asked someone to prepare food, and it will be sent over soon. Also, do you want to take a bath and rest first? Sulan looked at his body. Although there was no dust on him, the thick sulfuric smell unique to the abyss was unpleasant. He nodded and said, I'll go take a bath first. Prepare the food, I'll be back soon. With that, he teleported away and went to the bathroom to wash up. When he reappeared, he had changed into a neat linen bathrobe and was preparing a feast meticulously prepared by the halfling human chef, Frodo. I haven't eaten this food for a few days, I'm really craving it. Sulan came to the table and quickly picked up food with his chopsticks. During this time in the abyss, he had only eaten some dry rations. There was very little food in the abyss, and how could you expect a demon to have good cooking skills? There were also those strange ingredients. Sulan had no appetite at all. Once, he saw their top-notch delicacies in a tavern in a town. A pot of soup cooked with eyeballs made Sulan's scalp tingle, but those demons ate very happily. Since then, Sulan had a psychological shadow of the so-called abyss delicacies. This thing was really not something that ordinary people could enjoy. After enjoying a sumptuous feast, Sulan drank a cup of green tea with a relaxed expression. This time, we have obtained a total of more than 500 high-grade soul crystals, which is enough for the time being. I think we can try to build the steel golem production line. More than 500 high-grade soul crystals. As expected of the abyss, the souls are really rich. Hathaway was surprised by Sulan's harvest this time. With so many soul crystals, we can indeed use them for a long time. The steel golem production line indeed needs to be built. Hathaway nodded and said. The golem factory was a large-scale project. In fact, all kinds of golems were produced independently by different production lines in the golem factory. Very few golems could share a set of production lines. Clay golems were molded into a ceramic-like substance, rock golems were carved, and steel golems were forged from various metals, so they required different production processes. However, they also had something in common, and that was the inscription of magic patterns. All golems needed to be inscribed with mageweths. However, the techniques used to inscribe mageweths differed from one golem to another. After all, clay, rock, and steel were made of different materials, so the carving knives and materials needed to inscribe mageweths were also different. The magic pattern inscription workshop now only had one magic pattern inscription equipment, which could inscribe 6 golem parts at a time. Sulan did not intend to continue producing magic pattern inscription equipment for the time being. The production of one magic pattern inscription equipment required a legendary soul crystal, and the legendary soul crystal in his hand was prepared for the diamond golems. Sulan intended to make 2 diamond golems, and with the addition of more than 500 steel golems, as well as more obsidian and rock golems, he could form a powerful golem army. With such a large golem army, even dealing with a demon army would not be a problem. After all, magic constructs like magic golems had far too many advantages. They were immune to diseases, lethargy, aging, mental attacks, poison, paralysis, instant death, intimidation, heavy blows, crippling, bruising, attribute absorption, and energy absorption. They also had dark vision, didn't need to eat, drink, or breathe, and could work 24/7. Compared to them, the demons couldn't use many of their methods. Abilities such as evil aura, blasphemous words, and stinking cloud were directly useless. Compared with the chaotic command of the demons, the Golem army would strictly follow orders. That was why the Arcane Kingdom could rely on the Golem army and the Floating Space City to conquer the multiverse. Not long ago, Su-Len learned in the Abyss Blood War that compared with the Demon Army, the number of the Devil Army was usually only 1/10 of the Demon Army. However, when the gap was 10 times larger, the Devil Army would basically win the final victory. One of the reasons was discipline. The Devil Army had very strict discipline, which was completely incomparable to the scattered Demon Army. Compared with the Golem Army, even the Devil Army could only admit defeat. Su-Len now had a clay golem production line. Later, after building the Obsidian Factory, he built the Rock Golem production line. However, the scale of the Rock Golem production line was not large, and many places needed manpower to make them. As for the Steel Golem production line, a large amount of steel was needed as raw materials. The steel workshop in Northern Town needed to be transformed, and then it would provide materials for the Steel Golem production line. Some simple parts could even be cast in the steel workshop, while those difficult parts needed to be forged mechanically. Although the Steel Golem had steel in its name, the material used was not ordinary steel, but magic steel. This metal required the addition of some other materials during the smelting process. It was a special alloy. High-quality magic steel was hard and tough, resistant to corrosion, abrasion, high temperature, and had good plasticity. At the same time, it also had good magical properties. It was very good to use this material to make steel golems, and after engraving various magic patterns, the physical and magical defense of the steel golems would be raised to a very high level. The next steel golem production line would need a lot of clay golems to act as workers to operate it. It wasn't that Su-Len didn't want to only do a fully automated production line. The main reason was that he didn't have many legendary soul crystals. The fully automated production line needed soul crystals to make the tower spirit to control it. The cost of only making a set of steel golem production line was very high. The initial estimate was at the level of 1,000,000 kinnar. In the future, the production of steel golems would also require a lot of money. This was a big money burner. The cost of a steel golem, excluding the soul core, was 70,000 to 80,000 kinnar. The Golem army of the Floating Space City was completely piled up with countless kinnar. One couldn't afford it without money. Chapter 524. Some people said that arcanists were just throwing money at others, and it did make some sense. Whether it was the Floating City or the Golem army, they were all built with money. A steel golem cost 80,000 kinnar, and a diamond golem cost more than 1,000,000. According to the standard of the Golem army, each of the 500 steel golems cost 80,000 gold coins, which would add up to 40 million gold coins. 2 steel golems would cost around 2 million to 3 million gold coins. The remaining 1,500 stone golems cost around 30,000 gold coins each, which would add up to a total of 45 million gold coins. In total, the entire Golem army would cost an astonishing 100 million gold coins. The Florentine Kingdom's annual revenue was barely 8 million gold nars. It would take the Florentine Kingdom 13 years of tax revenue to barely reach 100 million gold nars. Among these, high-grade and legendary-grade soul crystals were things that couldn't be bought with money. The materials needed to build a floating city cost at least 100 billion kinnar. It could be said that if it weren't for the minerals found in Sullen's territory and the rich resources of the underground world, he wouldn't even be able to build a wizard tower, let alone a golem army. Although the golem production line cost a lot, most of the materials were produced in the northern city, so it didn't really cost that much. Similarly, the materials used to build the golem army were basically provided by the northern city. The obsidian golem's main materials were provided by the obsidian workshop, which directly reduced the cost of the obsidian golems by half. In addition, most of the other materials could be obtained from the secret realm and the underground world, which ultimately reduced the cost of the obsidian golems by 80%. If it weren't for the various resources in the underground world and the secret realm, Su-Len wouldn't even be able to build the golem army, and even the construction of the wizard tower would have been delayed for a long time. He had to admit that it was a wise choice to build a city in the northern city. Who would have thought that he would find a passage to the underground world here? In addition to these resources, the northern city also built a large number of factories. Originally, there were pottery, brick kilns, wine, sugar factories, and other factories in North City. Now, Sulan had also opened a porcelain and glass factory. Now, the goods in North City were very popular in several kingdoms around Florence. In addition to these, the perfume and soap factories proposed by Su Luan had also begun to be put into production. Perfume and soap products could be said to be the favorite of those noble ladies and ladies, who were even crazy about these daily necessities. These daily necessities weren't cheap at all. They were all consumables. It could be said that Northern Garrison City's income had been steadily increasing. After some calculations, Northern Garrison City's monthly income had reached 1.2 million kinnar. The income of Beifong Duchy's 3 cities was higher than that of the entire Kingdom of Florence. If not for the fact that Sulan had become the king of the Kingdom of Florence and his own strength, he would not have been able to defeat Sulan. The nobles and kings would never let go of such a lucrative opportunity. But even so, the caravan in the northern garrison city continued to expand. Putting everything else aside, just the caravan guards already numbered in the thousands. Sulan first went to the secret realm to see the crystal beasts. At present, the crystal beasts had multiplied to more than 200. Every month, they would provide a batch of high-quality magical crystals to North City. Some of these magical crystals were used to repair the secret realm, and some were used to build the wizard tower. In the future, these magical crystals would also be used to build the floating space city. The mining area in the underground world was still the same. All kinds of mines were being mined in an orderly manner. Among them, the iron ore output was the highest. There were also copper, zinc, lead, silver, tungsten, gold, and so on. The mining of mithril was still very slow. There were only about 20 pounds of mithril in the warehouse, 25 pounds of adamantine, and 20 pounds of orichalcum. These precious metals were far from enough to build the floating space city, but they were barely enough to build the floating space tower. In addition, there were 130 pounds of various magic gems. Among them, there were about 30 pounds of high-quality magic gems. These magic gems could be used as materials for magic experiments, and could also be used to make magic equipment. Sulan even considered equipping the students of North Wind Academy with some magic equipment in the future. There were also many miscellaneous things that Sulan handed over to others to take care of. As a king and a wizard, he did not have the time and energy to pay attention to these trivial matters. After dealing with the matters here, Sulan and Hathaway set off for the obsidian factory together. He went there this time, on the one hand, to transport the obsidian back. On the other hand, he needed to start a large-scale construction of the iron golem production line. The iron golem production line consumed a lot of energy. He had to find a way to build an energy transmission pipeline. The clay golem production line could be used in this way. When the iron golem production line was built in the future, an independent elemental pool would have to be built in the iron golem production line to provide energy. Tower Spirit Number 1. Show me the design of the iron golem production line that I drew last time. Hathaway looked at the iron golem production line and the obsidian factory in front of her, then frowned slightly. I always feel that these places that were designed and built last time are not beautiful enough, and the planning is a bit messy. I think this iron golem production line can be adjusted again. Tower Spirit, list out all the problems that have occurred in the production line during this period. Soon, the factory Tower Spirit showed all the problems that had occurred in the production line and the obsidian factory during this period of time. Soon, a lot of text and images appeared on the display screen. Hathaway began to solve these problems one by one, and at the same time, upgrade the production line. Everything in the obsidian factory was normal. This area was directly isolated by Sulan, and no one was allowed to enter. In the deepest part of the volcano, in the huge magma pool, 2 large lava elementals were still working hard. They were like fish in water in this magma environment. The Tower Spirit scanned the obsidian factory with its aura. All the clay golems were operating normally, and the obsidian produced was regularly placed in the warehouse. The upgrade plan of the wizard tower had not stopped. Hathaway was ready to upgrade the Wizard Tower into a floating space tower, but there was still a shortage of materials, and obsidian was one of the materials that she lacked the most. Hathaway wanted to use obsidian to cover the entire foundation. Because obsidian itself had the ability to conduct magic, simple runes could become a carrier of magic power, and at the same time, its hardness was very high. This was an important energy channel for the construction of the Enigma in the floating space tower in the future. The construction of the Enigma could enhance the defensive power of the Northern Citadel and the Wizard Tower, and at the same time, it could greatly reduce the difficulty of casting spells, so that the wizard apprentices in the floating space tower could also rely on the Enigma to obtain simple casting abilities. If the Enigma could continue to be upgraded into an artificial magic net, then it would be more useful, and even ordinary people could cast spells. According to different talents, ordinary people could cast a lot of zero-level tricks. If they were slightly more talented, then they could also learn some low-level spells. Of course, this ability was only useful within the coverage of the artificial magic net of the floating space city. If they were out of the coverage of the artificial magic net, then ordinary people who obtained the ability to cast spells would be instantly beaten back to their original state. After checking the design drawings of the factory, Hathaway began to upgrade and transform the place, because this upgrade and transformation required a lot of adjustments. Fortunately, the factory tower spirit was there to assist, or the two of them would have taken a long time to complete the work. After the adjustments, the production efficiency of the golem production line had obviously improved, and all kinds of small problems were basically solved. However, after the upgrade and transformation, the golem puppets on the production line also needed to be reinstilled with work skills. Next, Hathaway first sorted out the operation technology of the upgraded golem production line, and then transmitted it to the tower spirit, so that it could master the various technology of the upgraded golem factory. As a light rose from Hathaway's body, a strong soul power gushed out from her body, and then instantly connected to the tower spirit. The faintly discernible balls of light entered the tower spirit, and after a while, these spiritual lights disappeared. Tower spirit. Optimize and upgrade the production technology of these clay golems. Yes, master. Following Hathaway's order, the tower genie slowly raised a ball of aura. This ball of aura absorbed a large amount of energy. Soon, this ball of aura shot out a beam of aura and landed on the clay golems. The tower genie was the terminal auxiliary tower genie of the golem factory. It could directly add new functions to the golems, but doing so consumed energy. Under normal circumstances, Hathaway would not waste energy on this. Start loading program. Loading progress, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. Loading complete. Activating the craftsmanship related to the golem factory. The factory tower spirit's loading ability was limited, and the soul core of these clay golems was also limited, so it could not add too many craftsmanship skills. Therefore, these clay golems were only loaded with one or two craftsmanship skills, such as carving, smelting, forging, and so on related to the production of golem puppets. At most, it could only load up to expert-level craftsmanship skills, and it was basically impossible to load up to master-level craftsmanship skills. Of course, Su Len would not be so extravagant to add such high-level craftsmanship skills to these clay golems. Basically, high-level craftsmanship was enough, because the higher the level of craftsmanship, the more energy it would consume, and it would require higher quality soul crystals as the core. This was the same as loading work programs on robots. The higher the level, the greater the amount of data needed. At the same time, there was also a greater demand in terms of hardware. You could not only ask an artificial intelligence like AlphaGo to use a Pentium 256 CPU. Chapter 525. The soul core of an ordinary clay golem was made of low-level soul crystals. If the legendary tower genie was compared to a quantum supercomputer, then the soul crystal of this clay golem was at most the CPU of a Pentium 512. The difference could be said to be like heaven and earth. In fact, the difference was even greater. After upgrading the production line and the obsidian workshop, Su Len and Hathaway began to expand the factory. The two production lines originally took up more than 1,000 square meters of space. This time, the steel golem production line needed even more space. The production of the steel golem could be divided into 3 parts. The first was the construction of the limbs. This step could be done separately. The raw materials needed for the steel golem were made in the steel factory. Some of the parts were directly cast, so this part could be completed by skilled craftsmen. After the casting, the various parts would be polished. In addition to these cast parts, there were also some parts that needed to be forged. After these parts were completed, they had to be sent to the next workshop for mageweth engraving. The second part was the mageweth engraving. This part was very critical, and there could not be the slightest deviation. Otherwise, it would cause the entire golem to not operate smoothly, stop working, and so on. The third part was the assembly of the body structure. This step was like piecing together toy models to assemble the complete structure of the golem. The fourth part was the activation of the spell. This part could not be automated at the moment, so Hathaway had to do it herself. Because there was already an automatic inscription machine for mageweth engraving, the main work of the steel golem production line was the first 2 parts. A steel golem required about 10 tons of steel. This steel was called black magic steel, and it was the steel used for steel golems. There was basically no problem with this. With the construction of the steel factory in North Town, there were now 4 50-ton furnaces in North Town. With full production, they could completely meet the needs of the steel golem production line. Black magic steel was ordinary steel with some other metals and enchanted materials added to it. Finally, it was smelted into a special alloy. The main craftsmanship to make a steel golem was pouring and forging. These required the craftsman to polish the parts. The mageweth engraving part could be done by the automatic mageweth engraving machine controlled by the Tower Genie. Mechanical constructs mainly used forging equipment, quenching equipment, and assembly equipment. Hathaway could easily take care of these. In the end, the completed steel golem would be stored in the warehouse, and there would be no soul crystals installed as its core. The soul core of the steel golem was made from high-grade soul crystals. This kind of soul core required Hathaway and Sue Len to personally make it. Of course, Alex and Karina couldn't escape from this task as well. They couldn't make legendary-grade soul cores. Only Hathaway could. Although making a soul core of this level was difficult for the few of them, it was still manageable. If he wanted to activate the steel golem, he would need to put in a soul core and then cast a spell to activate the life of the construct. This step would have to wait until the golem factory had accumulated a certain amount of stock before letting Hathaway complete it in one go. Although all of this sounded simple, it was very difficult to actually do it. After all, if this wasn't a magical world with extraordinary powers, it would take months or even years to complete a production line with just 2 people. The 2 went back and forth between the Wizard Tower and the Obsidian Factory almost every day. It took him nearly a few days just to lay the energy transmission pipes. During this time, 80 to 90% of the magic crystals stored in the Obsidian Factory had been consumed. The clay golems that were loaded with the new technology underwent a second modification after a short period of adaptation. After the previous modification, many of the clay golems still had some minor problems in their work. This time, it was to make some adjustments to these clay golems. After the adjustments, the clay golems produced basically had no other problems, and the operation of the assembly line was smoother. The entire golem factory was operated in the manner of an assembly line. The head, torso, and limbs were all made separately. These clay golems loaded with crafting skills were each responsible for a part. Out of almost 100 finished products, 97 could be used. Finally, Hathaway was responsible for the acceptance and monitoring of a clay golem specially made. Hathaway even used a high-grade soul crystal to give it more powerful computing power and intelligence. With higher intelligence, this clay golem could determine whether the golem body parts produced were qualified, then complete the assembly process and put them in the warehouse. Preliminary statistics. With sufficient raw materials, the steel golem production line could produce 1 unactivated golem puppet every day if it operated at full capacity. If she wanted to further increase the production capacity, Hathaway would have to recruit wizard apprentices or load new auxiliary golems. If one clay golem a day, 30 can be produced in a month. Now, 500 high-grade soul crystals can be used for about a year and a half. It can be used for a while, Su Len said after some calculations. After testing the golem production line, Hathaway nodded and said, in terms of materials, we can let Alex and Karina take turns to replenish. The completed steel golems can be activated once a month. There are also legendary soul crystals. How troublesome. Hathaway shook her head and said, it's very difficult to get soul crystals in the material plane. It seems that we'll have to go to the abyss every once in a while. Su Len said after thinking for a while. Let's not worry about that for now. We need to test the normal operation of the factory first. With Sullen's order, the entire steel golem production line began to operate. The clay golems operated normally, and the entire assembly line ran smoothly. After seeing that the steel golem production line was running well, Su Len and Hathaway were relieved. Looking at the steel golem production line running normally, Su Len and Hathaway looked at each other and smiled. It seems that we've succeeded this time. The next thing we need to prepare are the diamond golems. Some time ago, the arcane crystal was successfully refined, and the method of making the diamond golems is almost done. It's just right for us to try it out, Hathaway said with a smile. Be careful. Try a few more times. It doesn't matter even if you fail. We don't have any enemies that are a big threat to us now. There's no hurry. Su Len nodded and said. Don't worry, I won't mess around, Hathaway said. Chapter 526. When Hathaway went to make the diamond golems, Su Len couldn't help. Besides, he had other things to do now. After adding a steel golem production line, the golem factory in front of him was basically completed. However, there was a problem that had to be solved. Insufficient energy. There was only one energy source in the entire Arcanum, the elemental pool in the center of the Arcanum. Originally, the energy of this elemental pool was more than enough to supply the entire Arcanum. However, Su Len continued to transform the Arcanum, adding crystal beast breeding bases, nature oaks, and now the golem factory. The golem factory had the highest energy consumption. Originally, the energy consumption of a golem factory required an elemental pool. However, Sullen's golem factory only had a simplified version of 2 production lines, so it was barely enough. Now, with the addition of the steel golem production line, the energy consumption was huge, so the Arcanum's energy was tight. Su Len was going to build an elemental pool here. He was already familiar with the technology of making elemental pools. Even if there was something he didn't understand, he could ask Hathaway for help. After making the decision, Su Len began to build the elemental pool. According to Hathaway's notes, Su Len began to try to make the elemental pool. The golem factory didn't need a large elemental pool. A medium-sized elemental pool was more than enough. Su Len found a suitable open space in the factory and began to excavate the ground. The elemental pool wasn't big, and the basic materials weren't precious. The pool was made of pure white high-quality marble, and it also needed a large amount of thorium, orichalcum, and other metals to cover it. Finally, runes had to be engraved on the pool, and the runes had to be filled with mithril. Mithril was good at conducting magic. It was resistant to corrosion and oxidation. As long as it wasn't deliberately damaged, it wouldn't be damaged for thousands of years. This was also why many relics left by ancient arcanists could still function after thousands of years. The silver-white carving knife quickly carved on the pool, and beautiful runes appeared on the pool. Soon, when all the runes were engraved, Su Len took out 4 high-quality magic gems and began to sacrifice them to the elemental plane, opening up 4 energy channels connecting the 4 major elemental planes. A powerful magic energy quickly gathered, and then the void was torn apart under Sullen's control. The energy of the 4 major elements slowly poured out of the energy channels, and then turned into light blue elemental water under the transformation of the runic circle. After the elemental water appeared, the concentration of elements in the entire space instantly increased by several levels. As a powerful spatial energy flashed, the 4 elemental channels slowly stabilized, and then these elemental channels began to merge with the 4 runic magic circles of the elemental pool, and finally disappeared. The light blue elemental water in the elemental pool was like a trickle, and it began to slowly fill up the entire elemental pool. Tower. Master, I'm. Close the golem factory. Understood. Shutting down the golem 2, the assemblies S, turning off the clay mixer, shutting down the clay molding workshop, shutting down the golem assembly workshop, the rock golem assembly line is shutting down the stone golem carving workshop, shutting down the rock golem grinding workshop, shutting down rock golem assembly workshop, the golem 2. As the tower genie's cold mechanical voice continued to ring, the originally brightly lit and mechanically roaring golem factory slowly quieted down. In the end, only some lights were not extinguished. Master, all energy channels have been closed. Very good, now begin to connect to the golem factory's elemental pool. Sulen directly ordered. Yes, Master. Connecting to the elemental pool. Connection successful. Opening the energy channel. Energy replenishment is in progress. 20%, 25%, 30%. 85%, 90%, 95%, 100% charging complete. Sulen stared at the elemental pool as he watched the energy constantly pouring out. Restart the golem factory. A large amount of elemental energy began to be consumed, and the golem factory started up again. System self-check, please wait. Self-check complete, everything is normal. Start up, the clay golem production line has been successfully started. The stone golem production line has been successfully started. Seeing the 2 production lines start up again, Sulen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The next step was the most important. The golems produced by the stone golem production line and the clay golem production line were not considered strong. The steel golems were the main force of the golem army. Start up the steel golem production line. Sulen said slowly after the 2 production lines were running normally. Yes, Master. The steel golem production line has begun self-check complete. Starting up. The equipment slowly started up, and the clay golems on the production line also began to officially run. Soon, the steel golem production line that had just been completed officially began to run. After seeing that the production line was running well, Sulen left the golem factory and let the tower genie number 1 reseal the area. Back in northern town, Sulen was ready to give himself a vacation and slack off. Then he ran to Frodo's place to steal some food, and then dressed casually to go shopping. Da-da-da. There was a rush of footsteps, and then a servant came in and said, Your Majesty, I just received news that the expedition team that was sent to explore the east of the wasteland has returned. Hearing the servant's words, Sulen's eyes widened. The expedition team was a project that he personally started after returning from the astral plane. Last time in the astral plane, Sulen saw the entire world. Other than the continent they were living on, there were several other continents on this planet, and the closest one was the eastern continent, which was across the sea. To the east of the northern wasteland, across the sea was the eastern continent. Sulen had sent people to explore, and he planned to try to open up a new route. If he could open up a trade route from the northern wasteland to the eastern continent, it would definitely become a new golden waterway. It should be known that the coastal countries in the south, even after being exploited by the Red Dragon Queen, still made a lot of money by relying on the sea trade. If Sulen opened up a trade route from here, the profits contained in it would greatly accelerate the development of his territory, and at the same time, earn a lot of money for the construction of the floating city. The floating city cost 100 billion kinnar to build. Even Sulen was shocked. To build such a top-level magic crystal in the arcane era, it would require a lot of resources and money. If he did not expand trade and make money as soon as possible, when would he be able to? The expedition team sent by Sulen followed the simple map provided by him, and advanced along the Red Sand River. The Red Sand River stretched all the way to the sea. Chapter 527. The northern wasteland and the eastern continent were separated by an ocean. Normally, the route would pass through the Southern Sea Islands and enter the Southern Sea. The merchant ships in the Southern Sea would buy the goods from the east and sell them to the north, while the rest would be sent to the west by sea. The trade route would not pass through the northern wasteland. Sulen would have to open up a trade route himself if he wanted to get a share of the profits. The northern wasteland used to be desolate, with no human cities. There were only gnolls, kobolds, goblins, barbarians, and beast-men. These people would never trade with merchants. They were better at robbing. Now, the only way to open up a trade route was for the merchants of the northern wasteland to travel to the eastern continent. The distance from the northern wasteland to the eastern continent was quite far, and there were no human cities along the way. If Sulen wanted to open up a trade route, he would have to build a city here. The people he sent to scout the route had returned. Where are they now? Sulen asked immediately. Your Majesty, they are still in the city hall, the servant reported. Tell them to come see me. Yes, please wait for a moment. The servant left in a hurry. About a quarter of an hour later, Sulen saw this group of adventurers. These adventurers looked very tired. Their armor was full of scars, their hair was disheveled, and their faces were dirty. They looked travel-stained. Did you finish scouting the route? Sulen asked in a deep voice. Yes, Your Majesty. We followed the Red Sand River to the southeast. Along the way, we encountered the Jackalan tribe, the Orc tribe, the Gnomes, the Lizard Men, and many other evil enemies. After a lot of hardships, we finally arrived at the Eastern Sea and saw the sea. After that, the middle-aged man in the tattered leather armor said. I know, and I will give you a generous reward. Now I want to know if you have sorted out all the routes and situations along the way into a map. Sulen interrupted the middle-aged man's complaint and asked directly. Handsomely rewarded. A map. We have a complete map. Not only the route, but also some areas by the sea, the adventurer said happily after hearing Sulen's words. Where is the map? Let me see. Sulen said. That adventurer subconsciously took out a sheepskin map from his chest, and handed it to Sulen. When Sulen took it, he seemed to realize that he didn't have the courage to take the map, and could only look at Sulen with a conflicted expression. Sulen ignored the adventurers and opened the map. The map was very simple. After all, these people had never learned how to draw a map. The map looked like an abstract drawing. Luckily, the terrain of the northern wasteland was not complicated. They had already marked out the location of Northern Town and the Redwater River. They had also recorded the other routes. Some areas were even described with words. Although the map was simple, it was still acceptable for the station. Moreover, when he compared it with the northern wasteland that he saw in the astral boundary, the difference wasn't too big. Very good, your map has met the requirements of this mission. Sulen put down the map and said with a smile, the reward promised by the city hall will not be small. The reward of 10,000 kinnar will not be less. This is the proof of mission completion. You can take it to receive your reward. Of course, after receiving your reward, you will have to lead the army of Northern Town through this route again. Thank you for your generosity, Your Majesty. Your reputation is as bright as gold. We are willing to lead the army again. After hearing the reward, these people's eyes were bloodshot, and they couldn't help but show excitement on their faces. Your Majesty, we. At this moment, the adventurer suddenly became a little hesitant. Sulen was a little confused. Do you have something to say? The adventurer gritted his teeth and finally seemed to make up his mind. Your Majesty, we want to change the reward. Change the reward? You think 10,000 kinnar is too little? Sulen said calmly. What reward do you want? Your Majesty, we don't think your reward is too little. Hearing Sulen's words, the adventurer quickly explained, we want to change the 10,000 kinnar to become citizens of Northern Town and distribute houses and land to us. Sulen smiled. You want to become citizens of Northern Town? Of course. That's 10,000 gold nars we're talking about. Even if the 5 of you split it evenly, you'll still get 2,000 gold nars each. That's enough for you to buy a manor in the Kingdom of Florence and live a wealthy life. Are you sure you want to exchange it for the citizens and land in Northtown City? The adventurers looked at each other and nodded heavily. Yes, Your Majesty. We are willing to become citizens of Northern Town. Very good. Then I announce that you can all become citizens of Northern Town. The people from the City Hall will come and help you with the household registration procedures. At the same time, your houses and land will also be distributed. However, you won't get the 10,000 kinnar, Su Len said in a deep voice. Thank you for your generosity. The adventurers bowed to Su Len and said respectfully. Su Len was a little emotional. These adventurers had been living in Northern Town for a year or two. After getting familiar with the city, they really wanted to become citizens of Northern Town. However, Northern Town had high requirements for citizens. Many of these adventurers couldn't pass the inspection. These people were willing to give up the 10,000 kinnar reward to become citizens of Northern Town, which surprised Su Len. He didn't expect the citizenship of Northern Town to be so precious. Su Len asked the guards to take the adventurers away. He then began to look at the map carefully. At the same time, he asked the army to form an advance party to clear all the obstacles on the road and prepare to build a city on the east coast. Su Len had to build a bridgehead on the east coast if he wanted to trade with the eastern continent. In addition, he had to clear the 15-kilometer area along both sides of the Red Sand River. Su Len planned to transport the goods by water. The caravans would also carry the goods from the Red Sand River to the ocean. It was faster and more efficient than land transportation. It would also save a lot of manpower and resources. This time, Su Len planned to arrange 2 ships for the advance party to record the hydrology of the Red Sand River. At the same time, he planned to build a large dock outside Northern Town to produce ships. There were a lot of trees in the northern wilderness, so it would not be a problem to build a ship. However, it would take some time to learn how to build a ship. In addition, he also needed to recruit enough sailors and navigators. Following Sullen's order, the army soon gathered. The 2 inland river boats were also ready. Chapter 528. There were more than 200 people in the expedition team. Among them, 50 were half-elf and half-human archers, 10 were drow scouts, 10 were half-elf rangers, 10 were dwarf defenders, 30 were barbarian warriors, 30 were centaur rangers, and the rest were all spear guards. Su Len had also arranged for some winged spellcasters to follow the expedition team. With the addition of transport personnel and construction workers, the total number of the expedition team was close to 1,000. Luckily, there were plenty of horses in Northtown City, so they could carry a lot of supplies. Otherwise, the expedition team would be even bigger. The expedition team's mission was to build a stronghold on the eastern coast. At the same time, they had to clear the surrounding wasteland monsters. Not only did they have to build a stronghold, but they also had to open up the entire Red Sand River. After all, water transportation was much better than land transportation. Even in the 21st century of his past life, sea transportation was still the cheapest way to transport large quantities of goods. If Su Len wanted to trade with the countries of the eastern continent, the Red Sand River had to be unobstructed. According to the map given by the adventurers, Northtown City was about 1,500 kilometers away from the estuary of the Red Sand River. With such a long distance, they had to set up some strongholds and transit stations along the way. Monsters were everywhere in the wasteland. Without a safe place to rest, the trade route would become very dangerous. At the same time, they had to set up transit stations to replenish all kinds of food supplies. A distance of 1,500 kilometers would require at least 5 stronghold transit stations. If this trade route was successfully opened, these stronghold transit stations along the way would soon become new towns and cities on this trade route. However, in order to accomplish all this, Su Len had to face a very difficult problem. Population. The population of Northtown City was too small. The entire Duchy of North Wind's population did not exceed 400,000. They had to migrate from the Kingdom of Florence. In the end, they had to spend a lot of money. Fortunately, Sulan had been reforming the Florentine kingdom bit by bit during this period of time. There were a lot of poor people in many areas. Under Phyllis's arrangement, these poor people would be forcibly sent to Northtown to supplement the population of Northwind Principality. Sulan planned to make the Duchy of Northwind's population exceed 1 million in 2 to 3 years. Northtown City's population would reach 300,000 to 400,000. Mirror Lake City's population would reach 100,000. The new city would also have a population of 100,000. Because of the maple trees planted around the new city, Sulan named it Maple City. Of the remaining population, 200,000 would be arranged in the vast plains outside the city. Sulan planned to build a dozen or so large towns there, while the rest would be arranged in the strongholds to be built on the Red River. According to the weather conditions in the northern wasteland, Sulan would stop after 100 kilometers. The further north they went, the colder the weather would get, and the stronger the monsters in the wasteland would become. Sulan planned to use this 100 kilometers as a buffer zone for Northtown City. In this way, the Duchy of Northwind's territory would become very strange. It would be long from east to west and narrow from north to south. However, this was only temporary. Sulan planned to slowly develop the southern part of the northern wasteland, which meant that he would continue to develop from Mirror Lake City to the south. The weather in the south of Mirror Lake City would be warmer. Although there was not as much rain as in the south of Florence due to the mountain range, it was still good. As long as this place was cleaned up, it would be able to grow food and feed more people. In the southeast of Northtown City, after crossing the swamp, there were grasslands and forests. There were also many resources there. Sulan planned to take over this place in the future. 2 days later, the exploration team was finally ready. Sulan personally led the exploration team along the Red River to the east coast. According to the description on the map, following the Red River to the south was the direction of the sea. Sulan and the others took a boat down the river, while the army marched on the shore. Since the centaurs raised livestock, there were a lot of horses in Northtown City. The team in front of them had 2 horses per person. Even the workers were riding horses. The Red River meandered for 300 kilometers before turning into a plain. It would also pass through the swamp and eventually merge into the sea. This area was considered an uncivilized area. Many tribes lived in the wasteland. One of them was a tribe of over 300 barbarians. When the exploration team from Northtown City arrived, they volunteered to join them. Although Sulan did not expand his territory here, his reputation in the wasteland was growing as Northtown City rose. The monsters that Northtown City defeated had spread the name of the city. These barbarians admired Sulan's reputation, so they came to join him. Of course, part of the reason was that these barbarians were too poor. When Sulan saw them, most of them were wearing tattered animal hides, and their weapons were very simple. The leading barbarian chief's iron axe was covered in rust. There were even bubbles and iron slag that had not melted yet. Many of them were holding thick wooden sticks and bone weapons. Although they were poor, they were still quite strong. Sulan left 2 barbarians who were familiar with the area. The rest of them were led back to Northtown City by 2 barbarian warriors. According to the barbarians, this plain was called the Nidorian Plains. The most powerful tribe was the centaurs, followed by the orcs. However, they weren't large in scale. The centaurs only had 5,000 people, the orcs had 4,000, and the rest were small tribes. Sulan did not touch these tribes for the time being. He was trying to build a stronghold. As long as these tribes did not provoke him, he would not touch them. Moreover, Northtown City did not have enough manpower. Even if they defeated these tribes, they would not be able to take over the plain. In the end, new tribes and monsters would take over the plain. It was a thankless task. Strictly speaking, the distance between Northtown City and the sea was not as far as 1,500 kilometers. This distance was mainly due to the winding Red Sand River. If they were to calculate the distance in a straight line, Northtown City would be around 1,000 kilometers from the sea. The Red Sand River originated from the depths of the Sierra de Lotus to the north of Northtown City. The White Water River originated from there as well. The two rivers had formed a large alluvial plain over the past few thousand years. The White Water River flowed east, then turned north, and finally merged into the ocean. In fact, the White Water River was closer to the ocean, but Su Luan did not choose the White Water River, because he had observed it in the astral boundary. The sea area where the White Water River merged into was too far north, and would be frozen in winter. On the contrary, the Red Sand River was an ice-free port. Chapter 529. The Red Sand River meandered to the southeast. The further it went to the southeast, the smoother it became. The surface of the river also became wider. The speed of the boats had slowed down a lot. The boats in Northern Town City were just ordinary inland sailing boats. Most of the time, they had to use oars to row the boats, so the quality of the boats was limited. Su Len had already sent people to the coastal countries in the south to recruit more people before he came here. The inland sailing boats were still acceptable, but the boats used for ocean trade were not suitable. The environment of the ocean was too different from inland rivers. The wind and waves alone were incomparable to the ocean. Take Sullen's boat for example. If they went out to sea, not to mention running into a storm, a single wave could smash their boat into pieces. A powerful boat was necessary to carry out ocean trade. Northern Town City did not have many talented people who could build boats, and they did not even have a single boat worker. When the time came, they would have to recruit people from the south to build the boats. However, Su Len did have some blueprints for the boats. If they followed the normal way to build a qualified boat, with the technology of Northern Town City, it would take them at least 2 years to build one. However, this was a world of magic. Su Len could build a magical boat with the power of magic. Compared to ordinary boats, a magical boat was a deadly weapon. The cost of a magical boat was not cheap, but Su Len could still afford to build one. Overall, the Red Sand River was relatively safe, but there were still some ignorant people who wanted to attack them. Then, there was nothing else. Over 200 elite soldiers from Northern Town City could easily take down a city with 10,000 people, let alone a few tribes in the wasteland. The soldiers from Northern Town City easily wiped out 5 or 6 small tribes. The surrounding tribes were all trembling in fear. Some of them even started to migrate. As for the lizard men in the swamp, they even ran away when they saw the soldiers from Northern Town City. The lizard men still remembered when Su Len wiped out the lizard men on a large scale. They were scared out of their wits when they saw the flag of Northern Town City. If it weren't for the fact that Su Len wasn't interested in the swamp, these lizard men would have been wiped out long ago. They continued to travel southeast along the river. Not far from the southern swamp was a lush forest. There was a group of half-elves living there. This group of half-elves was quite large, about 1,000 people. This was the data left behind by the adventurers last time. Su Len wanted to recruit this half-elf tribe. These half-elves were born archers, and there were even druid rangers among them. They were quite strong, and they were quite pleasing to the eye, but they did not join Northtown City. The gnomes were the masters of the forest. The best way for Su Len to subdue them was to rely on the nature oak. As long as Su Len took out the nature oak tree, the half-elves would most likely choose to join Northern Fortress City. However, the half-elves refused to interact with him for now. Su Len had to find a way to get to know them better. He planned to let the half-elves in his territory interact with the half-elves. The Red Sand River was already 300 meters wide. There were many tributaries that extended from the main river. This area had plenty of water, and there were many lakes around. The environment was quite good. However, there were some water monsters living in these lakes. They looked very similar to the ones in Northtown City, but they were a bit bigger. If other ships encountered these water monsters, there was a high chance that they would sink into the river. However, Su Len was the unlucky ones. In fact, Su Len didn't even need to do anything. The half-elf magic archers had already made their move. Frost arrows were fired, and the water monsters in the river were instantly frozen. Then, the barbarian warriors jumped up and broke the ice with their sharp battle axes. The army of Northtown City began to clear out the water monsters in the area. They could let the other monsters go, but they had to clear out the water monsters. These things were too dangerous for ships. Normal ships would be destroyed if they ran into them. Sulen wanted to open up a trade route, so he had to clear out the water monsters. Most water monsters had their own areas of activity. Any creature that entered their territory would be attacked by the water monsters. If a ship wanted to enter the sea, they had to pass through the area. The water monsters wouldn't care about that. They would surely attack. The army of Northtown City was very familiar with their teamwork. They soon killed the water monsters one by one. Apart from the useful materials on the monsters, they simply discarded the rest. Your Majesty, we will see an island in the middle of the river not far ahead. Once we see the island, we will reach the estuary, the adventurer who was acting as a guide said. Sulen nodded. He took out a telescope and looked around. When they reached the estuary, the river widened dramatically. The estuary was a huge trumpet-shaped channel. The deeper they went into the sea, the bigger the channel became. The island in the middle of the trumpet-shaped channel was the center of the channel. The island wasn't big. It was about 2 kilometers wide and 4 to 5 kilometers long. The island was covered in weeds and trees. It was perfect for building a shipyard. The ship passed by the island in the middle of the river. After passing through the estuary, they could see the boundless sea. Seeing the sea for the first time in his life, Suluan also felt a surge of excitement. Those soldiers and craftsmen who had never seen the sea before were even more astonished. These inland people couldn't imagine the vastness of the sea at all. Now seeing it with their own eyes, they were naturally shocked. Sulen ordered the ship to dock. Everyone went ashore and prepared to set up a camp. At the same time, they had to unload the things they were carrying. Sulen was planning to build a city by the sea to trade with the eastern continent. If it was successful, the city would become the most prosperous city in Northwind Principality for a while. After arriving at the beach, Sulen immediately sent people to cut down trees and set up a camp. At the same time, he sent the army to search the area. Since they were planning to build a city, they had to clear out the dangers around. A large number of soldiers and workers were sent out. Soon, the workers began to cut down trees. Sulen chose a flat area not far from the sea to set up a camp. The soldiers of Northtown City patrolled the area. They didn't find any monsters, but Sulen didn't let his guard down. The workers of Northtown City were very experienced. It didn't take long for them to set up a simple camp. Chapter 530. The sun gradually dimmed, and the Lady of Silver Moon slowly rose into the sky. The night had darkened. The craftsmen had gone to rest after a long day of hard work. The sound of waves hitting the beach came from the distance. The camp in Northtown City was not big. Apart from the night watchers, everyone else had gone to bed. Sulen was drawing a map of the surrounding area. Suluan didn't plan to live here for a long time. After the construction of the camp was completed, he would build a teleportation circle here. This would become the most important port city of the Northwind Principality and even the Kingdom of Florence. At the same time, he had to draw up a plan for the city. The next day, as soon as the sun rose from the east, the camp was already bustling with noise and excitement. They had freshly caught seafood for breakfast. There was a lot of seafood in the area. No one had been here for thousands of years, so there were countless fish. There was no need to worry about food. With enough food, Sulen did not have to spend so much effort to transport supplies from Northtown City. A few hundred craftsmen began to build the stronghold, but it was not enough to build a town with so few people. Sulen ordered the army of Northtown City to sweep the surrounding wilderness and capture all kinds of slaves to build the town. The nearby tribes were unlucky this time. With Northtown City's strength, these mid-sized tribes with less than 1,000 people were easily defeated by a few waves of arrows. Following that, they began to capture people from all over the place. In just 3 days, over 5,000 monster slaves had been gathered around the settlement. A large number of slaves began to build the town under the command of the craftsmen. The exploration team had brought a lot of resources and enough manpower. The construction of the town was very fast. While the town was being built, a shipyard was also being built on the island in the middle of the river. Sulan left the teleportation coordinates here and returned to Northtown City. At the same time, the second exploration team was ready. This time, there were 5,000 people in the team. Apart from 1,000 soldiers, the rest were all craftsmen. Sulan wanted to finish building the port as soon as possible, so he had transferred half of the workers from Northtown City. As Sulan was preparing more resources, he suddenly heard Hathaway's voice in his mind. Sulan, come to the wizard tower. Wait a moment, I'll be right there. Hearing Hathaway's telepathic message, Sulan did not delay. He put down the work in his hands and walked straight to the Adept Tower. Why did you call me here in such a hurry? What happened? Sulan asked as soon as he arrived at the astrology platform. Hathaway quickly stepped forward and grabbed Sulan. Then, with a flash of light, the two of them arrived in a strange space. Look, what is that? Sulan only felt his vision blur, and then he arrived in a strange space. Following the direction of Hathaway's finger, he saw a 3-meter-tall golem shining like diamonds appear in front of him. Is this a diamond golem? Sulan recognized the colossus at a glance and exclaimed in surprise. Yes, the diamond golem. Hathaway said proudly, for this big guy, I've spent a lot of precious materials. But it's all worth it. Hathaway said as she came in front of the diamond golem. With a flash of light, the sleeping diamond golem slowly woke up. Master. The golem's cold mechanical voice sounded. How strong is it? Sulan circled the tall diamond golem and asked. Legendary level. Its defense is very high, and its attack is not weak either. You can try it yourself. Hathaway said with a wink. That's good, but what if it's broken? Sulan said eagerly. That's easy. Hathaway smiled slightly, and then a dazzling light rose from her body. Mirror dimension. A strange light instantly enveloped Sulan, and then he felt his body enter a strange space. The whole space seemed to be silver white, and in front of him, there was a person who looked exactly like him. This is... Sulan stared at Hathaway with wide eyes. Hathaway smiled and said, this is a legendary level spell, Mirror Dimension. It can create a mirror world, and in this world, it can create a perfect mirror clone. As long as the mirror dimension is not broken, it will not cause any harm to the main body. It's more than enough to test the strength of the diamond golem. There's such a spell? It's perfect for training. Sulan said with bright eyes. Hathaway glanced at him and said, don't even think about it. This is a legendary level spell. It's not that easy to use. Sulan was a little embarrassed. It seemed that it was impossible to use this spell as a training ground. Okay, control your mirror clone and train with the diamond golem. Hathaway snapped her fingers, and the diamond golem was instantly activated. Sulan did not hesitate. He took out the storm halberd and rushed up. Clang! There was a muffled sound. The diamond golem did not care about Sulan's attack at all. The storm halberd smashed against it, and sparks flew. The diamond golem directly slashed down, and the heavy greatsword came down with a whistling sound that tore through the air. Bang! Rocks flew. Sulan's figure turned into an afterimage. He dodged the diamond golem's attack and jumped to the side in an instant. What's going on? Why is the power of my weapon so much weaker? Sulan stared at the diamond golem and asked. Your legendary level weapon can't be completely simulated with the mirror dimension spell, so it's only at the level of a high-grade magic tool. Hathaway shrugged. Although the mirror dimension was powerful, it required a lot of energy to create a clone of a legendary level tool. Now that she had made the golem, it would be difficult to make Sulan's weapon. That was why Hathaway did not make one. The mirror dimension was actually used by mages for group fights. Brilliant arcanists could create a large number of mirror clones to attack the enemy. These mirror clones could basically reach 80% of the original strength, apart from the equipment. You're discriminating. It's not fair. Sullen's face darkened. Although legendary-level warriors were powerful, they relied more on their equipment than legendary-level wizards. A bare-handed legendary-level warrior and a legendary-level warrior with equipment and weapons were two completely different concepts. Fortunately, Su Len was not a pure warrior. You'd better hurry up and deal with the golem. Hathaway winked mischievously, and then said to the golem, "Big guy, beat him up for me." "Yes, master." The diamond golem said in a deep voice, and then rushed towards Su Len with heavy steps. Chapter 531. Asterisk Rumble. Asterisk Sullen's body burst out with dazzling lightning, instantly enveloping the storm battle halberd. The storm battle halberd once again swept across with endless lightning, smashing heavily on the diamond golem. Lightning flashed, and a clear wound finally appeared on the diamond golem. So King hard. Seeing the scratch, Su Len cursed, then hurriedly dodged the diamond golem's sweep. His footsteps flashed, and he tried to circle to the side. Under normal circumstances, the diamond golem had 100 points of physical resistance, and was immune to most physical attacks with 100 points of strength. At the same time, it also had 100 points of resistance to cold, strong acid, lightning, and fire. It also had 100 points of magic resistance. In simple terms, any elemental damage below 100 points and magic damage below 100 points would have no effect on them. Sullen's attack could naturally break through the golem's defense, but it felt like using an axe to chop a rock. Greater haste. Greater mage armor. Greater deflection force field. Greater slow. At this moment, rays of light suddenly rose from Hathaway's body, instantly enveloping the diamond golem. The golem's speed instantly doubled. At the same time, an earthy yellow light appeared on Sullen's body. Sullen's body seemed to sink into mud, and his speed suddenly decreased. A strong wind blew, and the diamond golem wielding its heavy sword instantly appeared in front of him. Su Len only had time to block with the storm battle halberd. With a muffled clang, Sullen's body was directly sent flying a few meters away. "You're cheating." Su Len exerted force on his feet and said as he steadied himself. The diamond golem is a wizard's trump card. It's normal for it to be buffed with spells. Hathaway squinted her eyes and said with a smile, looking like a little fox. Su Len was speechless. Su Len did not have time to refute. The diamond golem rushed up again, swinging its greatsword quickly. "You really think you can defeat me like this?" Sullen's storm battle halberd swept across, and the powerful force made the diamond golem retreat slightly. Lightning spear. The dazzling lightning burst out in an instant. The storm halberd in Su Len's hand had completely turned into a weapon composed of lightning. Superior cat's elegance. High-level barbaric bull's strength. Advanced insight. Greater haste. In an instant, Sullen's figure disappeared from where he stood. In the next second, he appeared on the other side of the diamond golem and slashed down with his storm halberd. Bang! Endless lightning erupted from his body, and Surin's power was completely unleashed. The astonishing power tore through the air, accompanied by a bolt of lightning that seemed to tear through space. The storm war halberd viciously slashed towards the diamond golem in front of him. Crack! A crisp sound rang out as a crack appeared on the diamond golem's originally hard and smooth body. This crack gradually expanded, and then, with a bang, a palm-sized hole appeared on the diamond golem's body. "It's really hard, but I still smashed it." Sullen's figure disappeared again. At the same time, the giant sword in the diamond golem's hand suddenly swept across, and the strong wind all hit Sullen's position just now. After using his full strength, Sullen's figure accelerated again, and with the help of Blink, he completely disappeared in a flash. Su Len continued to attack, and afterimages appeared around him. The diamond golem kept attacking, but it had no effect. This kind of fighting style was something that even legendary rogues who were proficient in shadow travel could not do. Although they could escape into the shadows, they could not completely disappear. Even shadow travel had limitations. The number of times a rogue could use shadow travel was limited, and it could not be used in places without shadows. After using his full strength, Sulen fought to his heart's content. In a short period of time, a large number of scars appeared on the diamond golem's body. The originally crystal-like body became bumpy and full of cracks. Thunder Fury Slash. A bolt of lightning appeared, and the powerful lightning power turned into a blue chain, instantly blocking the diamond golem's movement. It's over. Sulen shouted and slashed the storm battle halberd at the diamond golem's head. With a flash of dazzling lightning, the tall diamond golem in front of him was instantly divided into two parts. Boom! The huge diamond golem fell to the ground in an instant, and the originally hard diamond shattered into countless pieces in an instant. Although the storm battle halberd mirror projection was only at the level of a high-grade magic weapon, the diamond golem could not withstand this kind of attack after being blessed with many spells and Sulen's abnormally powerful strength. As the diamond golem was completely destroyed, the diamond golem, which had been shattered into countless pieces, quickly turned into a fluorescent light and disappeared. Clap, clap, clap. A burst of crisp and pleasant applause sounded, and Hathaway said with a look of amazement, "What a wonderful performance. Such a powerful diamond golem was torn apart by you. Don't think that I'll forgive you just because you praise me. Tonight, I'll teach you a good lesson and let you have a taste of the lightning spear." Sulen waved his hand and dispersed the lightning. HMPF, you're lucky this time. I still haven't given the diamond statue a fighting ability. Wait until I give it to him, then you'll know how powerful he is. Hathaway snorted. She then waved her hand lightly, and the mirror image space in front of her shattered into countless pieces in an instant like a mirror. Sulen and Hathaway's figures instantly appeared on the astrology platform, and the diamond golem also appeared beside Hathaway. Looking at the tall and burly diamond golem, Sulen nodded slightly. Although he had been suppressing the diamond golem in the battle just now, this did not mean that the diamond golem was weak. After all, Sulen's strength was already at the high legendary level, and his character level had reached level 30. For this diamond golem to be able to withstand his full power for so long, it was already very powerful. How many of this thing are you going to produce? Sulen asked. 2. The cost of building a diamond golem is a bit high, so 2 is more than enough. Next, I'm going to try to build other golems. Hathaway let the diamond golem go back to standby. Although the diamond golem is powerful, it also has its flaws. It doesn't have magic attacks, and it's not very effective against some special enemies. The golem army not only requires strength, but also cooperation. There's going to be a lot of money to burn next. Hearing Hathaway's figure, Sulen couldn't help but click his tongue. The diamond golem was the lowest cost among the legendary golems. For example, the arcane guard cost at least 2 million kinnar, and the magic breaker was even more expensive. Chapter 532. The second batch of explorers was about to depart. Sulen summoned Boulder back from Maple City and asked him to lead the explorers to the east coast. Last night, Sulen severely taught Hathaway a lesson and made her beg for mercy under his thunder spear. He went in and out 7 times and killed all of them. When Sulen woke up the next day, there was a hubbub outside. Sulen carefully removed several warm and fragrant bodies beside him. He simply washed and went out. Outside, Sulen saw Boulder and the caravan of North Town coming back with him. Boulder had sent a batch of shipwrights from the Kingdom of Florence to North Town. Boulder brought back a lot of people. The construction of Maple City was still going on, so they couldn't transfer too many people. However, the caravan brought back a lot of slaves from the Kingdom of Florence. These slaves were chained up in groups of 10. They were thin and skinny, and their skin was a lot darker. They looked shorter than the people in North City. Where did you buy these slaves? They don't look like northerners. Sulan looked at the people in front of him and said. The manager of the caravan bowed slightly and said, Your Majesty, we received your message to recruit shipbuilders, so we immediately went to look for them. Thanks to you, we found these slaves in the slave market. They were slave shipbuilders sold by a company in the southern coastal countries, so we bought them all. These slave shipbuilders were owned by a noble family, but that noble family went bankrupt due to poor management, so they had to pay off their debts. Sulan nodded slightly and said, How many shipbuilders are there in total? The manager thought for a while and said, There are 117 shipbuilders in total. Apart from them, there are also about 600 ordinary slaves. They are all able-bodied laborers. There are also 30 boxes of tea leaves and 30 boxes of porcelain. They are all stored in the warehouse in the city. Well done. Sulan nodded with satisfaction. A caravan like this could bring 30,000 kinnar to Northgard City every time. The number of caravans in Northgard City had expanded to more than a dozen, trading with the southern kingdoms, the Desert Kingdom, and the Lorenza Kingdom. Boulder, I'll leave these slaves to you. Send them all to Deepwater City, Sulan said directly. Yes, Your Majesty. Boulder bowed. Sulan named the port that was being built in the east as Deepwater City. The sea level at the port was 8 meters, which made it a pretty good port. After this group of people was sent over, the construction of Deepwater City would accelerate. After dealing with the matter, he returned to the study and sat down. Sulan took out a map of the southern port city and a topographic map of the surroundings of Deepwater City from the bookshelf and began to compare them. It was also the first time that Sulan had seen such a port city. Therefore, when designing Deepwater City, they needed to gain some experience from those port cities in the south. As a powerful professional, he could easily control the muscles on his arms. Even if he didn't use any tools when drawing the design, the straight lines he drew were almost the same as using tools. 10 minutes later, a blueprint was completed. Sulan followed the layout of the southern port city and combined it with the topography of the east coast. The basic structure of the city was drawn on the blueprint, including the roads, residential areas, trade areas, warehouses, sentry towers, military camps, and so on. The most important part of the city was the port and shipyard. Trade was the most important thing in a port city, so the docks and warehouses were the most important. A large number of warehouses were built near the docks to make it convenient to store goods. The port had to be large, and they had to pay attention to the wind and waves. In fact, Sulan was considering whether to build a breakwater. Some things in this world were better than in his previous one, such as transforming nature, moving mountains, and filling the sea. It was not too difficult for wizards. Even if the hydrology of Deepwater City was not good, he could still build a deepwater port. Deepwater City was located on the southeast coast, so it had a lot of rain. The roads and sewers in the city had to be specially marked, especially the sewers. If they were to follow the standards of Northtown City, they would easily cause water to accumulate. The distribution of toilets and sanitation also needed to be paid attention to. The problem with the sewers was simple. As long as the layout was reasonable and the sewers were dug deep, it would be fine. The main problem was the hardening of the roads. Port cities had a lot of rain, and if the roads were not hardened, they would become muddy, which would greatly affect the transportation of goods. Therefore, the roads in Deepwater City needed to be paved with stone slabs or mud-to-stone spells. Because of the trade problem, port cities had a lot of people. Caravans from all over the world would come here to trade, which put a lot of pressure on the sanitation of the city. At the same time, there was another problem: infectious diseases. Infectious diseases were frequent in this world, such as plague, cholera, and plagues. Once these diseases broke out, they would quickly spread. The soldiers in Northtown City were fine because they were healthy and had strong immune systems. However, ordinary people were not. If an infectious disease broke out, it would definitely be a disaster. Although there were wizards in this world, they did not have a way to treat a large-scale plague. They could only quarantine it. Sulan clearly remembered that a plague broke out in the Sadran Kingdom in the south a few decades ago. In just 2 months, it spread to the Genoa port in the west of the continent and then to the kingdom of Kerbal. In just a few months, it had swept across half of the continent. It was said that some small cities were turned into ghost towns. After designing the roads, Sulan began to design the other areas in the city. In addition to the roads in the city, they also needed to design a road that led directly to the port. This road would need at least 8 carriages to transport goods. At the same time, the land in the port area needed to be leveled, and the warehouses and berths for the ships needed to be designed. Sulan designed the port, the warehouses, and the berths according to the southern port cities. After all, they had been a port city for hundreds of years. The design of the port and the berths were very perfect. After the design was completed, he began to think about the wizards that would be sent to Deepwater City. A trading city like Deepwater City would not be safe if there were no wizards to guard it. Sulan planned to send Andre and some wizard apprentices. Andre had the blood of a water demon, so his fighting power in the sea would be enhanced. Of course, Sulan also needed to arrange a laboratory for him. There was no need to think about a wizard tower. Perhaps he could build a small wizard tower about 30 meters tall without a tower spirit. It would be equivalent to a high-grade laboratory. Chapter 533. The weather in the northern citadel was very good. The sun was shining brightly. Unknowingly, it was already the month of May. The gentle sunlight was very comfortable on the ground. Sulan had nothing to do today, so he took Hathaway, Alex, Karina, Chrissy, Phyllis, Xanthi, and his 2 personal maids for a picnic. Alex and Chrissy were barbecuing on the grass. Hathaway was chatting with Xanthi and Phyllis. Sulan was lying on Xanthi's soft thighs, taking a nap and enjoying the massage from her soft little hands. Karina was setting up the tableware, and the 2 maids were assisting everyone. Master. I'm done. Do you want to try it? It's delicious, Chrissy said, waving her arms. Sulan waved his hand. He didn't want to be a guinea pig. The barbecue smelled delicious, mainly because of the seasonings made by Frodo. Speaking of which, Frodo's seasonings were getting richer and richer. Even Sulan hadn't seen many of them before. It had to be said that when it came to enjoying life, if the halflings were second, they would be first. Sulan had made all the seasonings he knew in his previous life. Even if he couldn't find the same ones, he would find some that tasted similar. Master, do you want to try it? It's delicious. Chrissy didn't give up. She took the barbecue directly to Sulan. She looked at Sulan with her big eyes. After all, what bad intentions could a succubus have? Among the women in the northern citadel, Hathaway liked to study magic. When she had nothing to do, she would sit on the balcony and make a cup of tea and enjoy the sunshine. Chrissy liked to raise pets. Her 3-headed dog was now the size of a calf. Alex liked to read books, not magic books, but fairy tales and travel books. Phyllis liked to make some snacks. Xanthi liked to follow Phyllis. Perhaps because they were both nobles, the 2 of them liked to have afternoon tea together. Karina often taught the drows all kinds of tricks. The 2 maids liked to eat sweets. Of course, they also liked to make delicious food. Sulan basically didn't care about their little hobbies. As the king of Beifong Principality and the owner of this place, he was very easy to talk to. The aroma of barbecued meat filled the air. The little succubus happily raised the meat and handed it to Sulan, looking at him expectantly. Looking at Chris's expression, Sulan couldn't refuse it directly, so he took it and took a bite. It tastes good. Hee, it seems that I have a talent for cooking. The little succubus said happily. So you're using me as a guinea pig? Sulan pretended to be angry. He then reached out and knocked on Chris's head. Not bad. Let me try it too. Hathaway stretched and grabbed a skewer of barbecued meat to taste. It's a little overcooked. It's totally the seasoning for roasted Frodo. But it's the first time I can roast it like this. It's worth encouraging. A huge black shadow suddenly fell from the sky. Hathaway reacted quickly and instantly raised an energy shield around it. As soon as the shield was raised, a large cloud of dust and grass rushed over and was blocked by the shield. Onyx Vaya, you did it on purpose. Be careful, or I'll hang you up and beat you. Sulan looked at the huge creature that fell from the sky with disgust. It was the red dragon girl. With a flash of light, the red dragon's huge body disappeared in an instant and was replaced by a red-haired girl. It was Onyx Vaya. Master, I didn't do it on purpose. The little red dragon firmly refused to admit it and ran to Chris to ask for food. This red dragon only knew how to sleep all day long. Often, she would sleep for several days at a time. When she woke up, she would look for food everywhere. Usually, she was nowhere to be seen, so Sulan didn't even have time to ride her. As a mount, you sleep all day long and don't even carry your master. Don't you think that's very dereliction of duty? Sulan said to the little female dragon. At this time, Onyx Vaya bit the skewer of barbecued meat and gently stroked it in her mouth. The shiny skewer was pulled out. Her movements were very practiced, and she didn't care about her image at all. Master, I'm close to adulthood now. I need to rest and sleep to grow. How can you bear to let a young dragon like me work? Onyx Vaya said as she ate the skewer. Close to adulthood? Sulan was slightly taken aback. A dragon's adulthood didn't have to be 100 years. In fact, this was just a rough number. It depended on the dragon's nutrition and development. If they lived in an area with abundant elements and abundant food for a long time, they would enter adulthood a few years earlier. Yes, yes, yes. Master, I'm about to reach adulthood. Are you going to prepare a gift for me? Onyx Vaya said shamelessly. Sulan glanced at her and didn't say anything. Master, as a dragon who is about to reach adulthood, and the most powerful red dragon among the Penishe dragons, if I go out and meet other people, how can I have the nerve to say hello to them? Besides, this will weaken your reputation, won't it? Onyx Vaya said with a flattering face, but if she could hide the glimmer of gold coins in her eyes, the effect would be better. Haha. Sulan smiled and didn't say anything. Little female dragon, I'm afraid you don't know how much money you owe. The number of treasures in the floating space tower's treasury doesn't match up. Looking at Sulan's eyes, Onyx Vaya was quickly defeated, and then whispered, so stingy. You're so rich, but you're not willing to help a poor dragon like me. I'm so sad. After the picnic, Sulan returned to the study, and a guard hurried over. Your Majesty, according to the adventurer's report, something suddenly happened outside North City. What happened? Sulan's heart skipped a beat. The guard hesitated and said slowly, recently, adventurers often report that some strange magic beasts have appeared in the north of North City. They look a bit like ordinary beasts, but there are some changes in their appearance. Their eyes are red and they are very aggressive. They don't just attack humans, they don't even let their own kind go. At first, we didn't pay attention to this. We just thought it was a magic beast that had evolved and transformed. But later, we found that many adventurers reported that they had encountered such monsters, and then we discovered the abnormality. The number of these mutant monsters is no less than that of ordinary beasts. This is normal. The number of magic beasts is far less than that of ordinary beasts, but there is a large-scale transformation of beasts here. After discovering this situation, we sent people to investigate, and the data has been collected. Please take a look. Chapter 534. Sulan took a sheepskin scroll and opened it. It was a map of the northern city with some lines drawn on it. Your Majesty, look at this. This is the pine forest north of the city. In the past month, we've found 5 mutated monsters in this forest, and the number is still rising. Further north, near the Sierra de Lotus, there are even more mutated monsters. We've been giving out quests for adventurers to find the cause, but we haven't found anything. The number of mutated monsters is still rising. Hearing the guard's report, Su Luan's expression turned serious. Although these mutated monsters hadn't attacked the city yet, if their numbers continued to increase, it wouldn't be long before these monsters overran the city, and even northern Garrison City would be affected. Su Lan looked at the statistics and frowned. In just a month or two, the number of mutated monsters had reached 300. The number that hadn't been counted was probably even higher. The northern city's soldiers were strong, and they often went out to clean up the monsters. If it were any other noble's territory, they might not be able to hold on. Is it because of the elemental tide? Hathaway asked softly. Su Lan put down the document and said uncertainly, I'm not sure. Did something like this happen when the elemental tide came in the past? By the way, are these mutated monsters only in the northern city, or are they everywhere in the continent? Su Lan ordered the guard, send someone to ask around. See if Maple City and Mirror Lake City have seen these things. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard bowed and left in a hurry. The elemental tide is getting stronger and stronger. The arrival of the elemental tide is a good thing for us, but it's also an opportunity for other species. This is most likely related to the elemental tide. By the way, are there any ancient ruins around here? Hathaway suddenly asked. I don't know about that. Su Lan looked at Hathaway strangely. Why are you suddenly asking about this today? Many ancient ruins have some terrifying monsters sealed away. Some were used by the ancient arcana masters for research purposes, while others were sealed away because they were too dangerous and difficult to kill. Normally, these things don't have much of an effect. With the passage of time, many creatures will die of exhaustion in the seal. However, there are also some long-lived creatures or monsters with abilities similar to life hiding that will become active again due to the arrival of the elemental tide. If the ancient seal is damaged, it might not be able to suppress the monsters. If the monster's power leaks out, it might lead to a situation like this, Hathaway said as she adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses. Su Lan looked rather awful. I think that's very likely. After all, we've inherited a mysterious realm left by the ancient arcanists. Since there's a mysterious realm here, it's very likely that there's an ancient ruin here. Oh right, Adept Locke and I also reinforced an ancient seal together. Sullen's face changed slightly. He immediately thought, no, I need to arrange people to search the surroundings carefully. Also, ask the city hall to issue a mission to those adventurers. Guards, guards. Su Lan yelled outside the door. Soon, 2 guards hurried in. Your Majesty, what are your orders? The 2 guards asked respectfully. Send someone to the city hall and ask them to search for the ruins around here. Also, issue a mission to those adventurers. Su Lan lowered his voice. Yes, Your Majesty. The 2 guards bowed and quickly left. Hathaway quietly watched Su Lan give out his orders. When he was done, she stood up and said, how about I try using astrology? No, if you fail, you'll suffer a backlash. Su Lan rejected without thinking. Hathaway smiled. It's fine. I'm a legendary wizard now. Even if I suffer a backlash, it won't do anything to me. Plus, I still have you, right? That won't do. Su Lan shook his head. Hathaway walked up to him and poked his head. If we don't use astrology, how long will it take for those adventurers and soldiers to find it? Also, I've just done some research. The number of mutated monsters is constantly increasing. If we don't get rid of them as soon as possible, we'll be in big trouble. Big trouble? What big trouble? Let's see how I'll deal with them. Su Lan snorted. If you don't agree, I'll use it secretly. You'll be sad if I get hurt. Hathaway said when she saw Sullen's reaction. You. Su Lan glared at Hathaway. He knew he had to agree, so he nodded. All right, you can use astrology, but I have to be by your side. If there's any danger, you have to stop the spell immediately. Okay. Hathaway agreed and pulled Su Lan to the astrology platform. I've made a divination crystal on the astrology platform. It can reduce the damage caused by the backlash. Basically, there won't be any problems," Hathaway said as she tidied up her things. As a northern witch, she had mastered divination spells. The northern witches were proficient in divination spells, but Sulan didn't let her use them because he was worried about Hathaway. Fate was a very strange thing, and so was the future. Although the divination spells could see some fragments of the future was not always the same. Using this kind of spell often would cause the line of fate to become chaotic. Just like a good swimmer who was addicted to cheating, using the divination spells recklessly would eventually lead to the fetters of fate. Then, it would be troublesome. At the top of the astrology platform, Hathaway's figure was quietly suspended in the air. Her elegant long hair was dancing in the wind, and a beautifully made crystal ball was suspended in front of her. At this time, a powerful wave of magic came from the crystal ball, and the smell of concentration incense in the whole room became stronger. Sulan looked at Hathaway quietly and didn't dare to disturb her. She was now preparing for the divination ceremony. This kind of spell usually took a long time to prepare. The more difficult it was, the longer it would take. Some even required the cooperation of other wizards to hold a grand ceremony. Under the silver moonlight, Hathaway's figure seemed to be covered with a layer of silver gauze. The Lady of Silvermoon also mastered part of the divination priesthood, and many divination spells were performed with the help of the Lady of Silvermoon. At this time, Hathaway's figure suddenly trembled, and then she suddenly opened her eyes. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Chapter 535. Asterisk crack. Asterisk a light sound was heard, and a crack appeared on the crystal ball that was floating in front of her. Then, with a bang, this high-grade magic item that was worth tens of thousands of gold coins was shattered into countless pieces. Following the shattering of the crystal ball, a strange and cold aura instantly appeared on the astrology platform. Indistinct howls echoed in the surroundings, and countless shadows appeared. The surrounding space distorted, and a powerful evil intent instantly appeared, pouncing towards Hathaway. At this moment, Sullen's body flashed, and he appeared beside Hathaway. He stretched out his arms and grabbed her slender waist. Then, a dazzling lightning shot out from his eyes. Get lost. The entire astrology platform seemed to have been struck by a bolt of lightning, and the entire space lit up. In the next second, countless vengeful spirits wailed and scattered in all directions. Countless evil thoughts dissipated in an instant, and at the same time, the eerie feeling also dissipated. How are you? Are your injuries serious? Sulan landed with Hathaway in his arms. With a flash of light, a green energy full of life appeared in his hand, and it instantly merged with Hathaway's body. Physical healing. As the green energy merged with her body, Hathaway's injuries began to improve. This time, Hathaway's injuries were not serious. The main thing was that her spirit was damaged, and she looked a little sluggish. Fortunately, she was now a legendary wizard, and her soul was strong, so her injuries were not serious. Sulan let out a sigh of relief. I shouldn't have let you use this astrology spell. I didn't expect you to be injured. I'm fine. Hathaway shook her head. The spell had healed her injuries, but her spirit still needed to recover. She shook her head and said, I used the astrology spell to find the source of the mutated monsters. It was a little troublesome, but I still found it. I saw a ruin in the astrology spell. It should be an ancient ruin. Also, a world shrouded in blood and evil aura. That should be the spiritual light of the sealed monster. It didn't die. Instead, it used the power of the elemental tide to revive itself. The ancient formation that originally sealed it has been severely damaged. According to the predictions of astrology, it will completely break the seal in 2 months at most and come out again. We have to deal with it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the entire northern garrison city will be contaminated by this evil energy, and all our efforts will be in vain. A world shrouded in bloody light and evil aura? Could it be the evil god? Sulan was a little confused. Prophecy spells were very annoying. Sometimes, they wouldn't tell you the answer. Instead, they would give you some hints and let you guess. Therefore, wizards who were good at prophecy spells were also very good at solving puzzles. I remember the location of the ruins. Then, it was turned into charcoal by the powerful lightning power. After the ferocious wolf died, the aura that originally surrounded the ferocious wolf was also swept away by the lightning. Huh! Sulen seemed to have discovered something. His figure suddenly disappeared. More than 10 kilometers away. The thick smell of blood filled the air. In the dark forest, a massacre seemed to have just ended. When Sulen's figure suddenly appeared here, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Then, a black shadow pounced on him. Bang! As soon as the black shadow got close to Sulen, it was kicked away. Its body flew backward at a faster speed than before. The huge force caused a crack to appear on the stone. However, the next moment, the black shadow in front of him pounced on him again. Its sharp claws drew a cold light. However, before it could attack Sulen, it was instantly hit by a bolt of lightning from the sky. Its entire body was paralyzed by the lightning and could not move. Claw demon? Sulen's eyes narrowed. He instantly recognized that the monster in front of him was a kind of abyssal demon. Chapter 536. Demon? Sulen said with a cold expression, now that something has happened, all sorts of monsters and serpents dare to come and cause trouble. Dominate demon. A light flashed, and the low-level demon's eyes instantly glazed over. After controlling the demon, Sulen casually cast a spell and forcibly read its recent memories. Sulen said with an ugly expression, the dimensional barrier has weakened. The dimensional barrier was a protective layer in the main material world, half-planes, and other planes. With this protective layer, the demons from the abyss would find it difficult to enter this world. The stronger the dimensional barrier, the more difficult it would be to enter. Even if the demons came to the main material world, their power would be suppressed. This invisible protective barrier mainly targeted the existence of the gods. If the energy level was too high, it would be naturally rejected when entering the material plane. This was also the main reason why the gods and demon lords could not descend into the world. In order to avoid this rule, most of the gods used divine power to enter the material plane, while the demons used soul projection. Sulen had just received news from the demon that the dimensional barrier of this world had begun to weaken. This was not good news. Neither the demons from the abyss nor the devils from Bator would give up the opportunity to harvest the soul crystals in the main material world. The arrival of the elemental tide brought a lot of benefits, but also a crisis. The world of demons belonged to the lower planes, including the abyss, Bator, and the dark abyss. It was usually rich in negative energy, but it was not too close to the death god's kingdom. The Styx River passed through all the lower planes and finally flowed into the death god's kingdom. In the multiverse, the worst thing demons and devils did was to steal souls from the Styx River. The water of the Styx River was not something that anyone could touch. If one dared to touch the water of the Styx River directly with their physical body, they would be eroded by the water of the Styx River. Even the gods did not dare to touch the water of the Styx River lightly. In the multiverse, only the death god could bathe in the water of the Styx River. The water of the Styx River had many strange abilities. The most frightening thing about it was that it could erase anyone's memories. This was because the water of the Styx River was originally used to cleanse souls. After erasing the memories of the soul, it could be reincarnated through the death god. Without the interference of the gods, the cycle of life and death was dominated by the origin sea. Souls would quickly melt after entering the origin sea, and the birth of life would absorb energy from the origin sea. At the same time, the source sea was the birthplace of all laws. When a life form ascended to legend, their soul would have a chance to approach the source sea to comprehend the laws. The origin sea was a special plane. No, it shouldn't be called a plane. It was a special space in the universe that was connected to all planes. Sorcerers believed that the origin sea was the source of life and energy in the multiverse. All souls of life, including the ancient gods, were born from the origin sea. This was the beginning and the end of the universe. At the same time, the source sea was also a very dangerous place. It was a place where life was reincarnated. All souls that entered this place would be completely crushed like a grinder. This reincarnation method was to crush all souls into countless tiny fragments and then reconstruct them randomly. The reincarnation presided over by the death god was much simpler. The death god would erase all the memories of the souls and send them back to reincarnation. Of course, because there were too many souls, the death god would also send most of them to the origin sea. The real task of the death god was to ensure the normal cycle of death and protect the souls from being stolen or damaged by others. Demons and devils would take the risk to enter the Styx River to steal souls, but now that the elemental tide had arrived and the spatial barrier of the material plane had weakened, those demons would not let go of such a good opportunity. Compared to stealing souls in the Styx River, the difficulty and danger of going to the material plane to collect souls were much lower. Su Len cleaned up the surroundings of his territory and returned to the astrology platform. He was waiting for Hathaway to recover, and at the same time, he was waiting for news about the ruins. The Northern Wilderness. In the wilderness, a group of vigilant adventurers was hurrying along. Carlos was wearing a fine chainmail and holding a curved sword in his hand, clearing the path in front. As the sharp curved sword was swung rapidly, the surrounding bushes and weeds were quickly cut down, clearing a barely passable path. Surprisingly, there were a few bald men in this group. Judging from their attire, they should be traveling monks. Since the establishment of the Northern Wilderness, many monks had traveled through this place to travel to the wilderness. Opening a path in this kind of wilderness was very tiring, and they had to be alert at all times. The people in charge of opening the path took turns. Soon, Carlos was replaced by another warrior. Carlos put away his weapon and took out a sheepskin scroll to check. Although paper was very popular now, some important documents were still written with sheepskin in the wilderness. Because of the harsh environment in the wilderness, paper was too easily damaged. "It should be around here," Carlos said as he flipped the scroll. The scroll was a topographic map of the Northern Wilderness. After Hathaway saw the ruins with her prophecy, Su Len had marked the general location of the ruins and some of the main features of the ruins and distributed it to the mercenaries who accepted the mission. "Stay alert. We're close to the ruins. The number of mutated monsters we've encountered along the way has obviously decreased, but don't be careless. I don't want to give your compensation to your wives." Don't worry, boss. We'll be careful." "Boss, I won't give you the chance." The others in the group all shouted. The originally gloomy group instantly became lively. After seeing the status of the group, Carlos secretly sighed in relief. Traveling for a long time in the wilderness would make people feel irritated and tired, but it seemed like the group was in good condition. "Look over there," someone exclaimed. When the others in the group looked up, they all exclaimed. Not far away, a severely weathered broken stone pillar appeared in the weeds. "Ruins. We found the ruins. We're rich." We're rich. I can consider retiring when I go back. Buy a few acres of land, buy a manor, and become a manor owner." After that, the adventurers began to clear away the surrounding weeds and shrubs. As the weeds were cleared away, more and more ruins appeared before their eyes. There were broken stone pillars, heavily weathered statues, and stones that had long been indistinguishable. Everything here showed that this was a ruin that had existed for a long time. Chapter 537. Carlos looked around. Only a corner of the ruins in front of him could be seen, and most of it seemed to be hidden. There were bushes and lush trees all around. Other than the part they found, there were no other ruins. He had encountered this situation before. Some ruins were protected by a layer of magic, and only by breaking this layer of magic could they enter. It was best to have the help of a spellcaster, or they would not even be able to enter. Some ruins were also protected by magic, but it seemed that the magic had been damaged due to the passage of time or some other reason. These ruins would only appear at a specific time, and when the time passed, they would be covered by magic again. Some ruins were partially exposed, and the other parts were still covered by magic. Of course, most of the ruins were not protected by magic at all, but the valuable things in these ruins had been cleaned out by countless adventurers. There were also some that were buried and needed to be excavated. There were many such ruins in the northern wastelands and deserts, but they were not easy to find. Obviously, the outer layer of magic of the ruins in front of them was not completely destroyed. Carlos was a little disappointed. He had originally wanted to search the secret realm when he received the mission from the city hall. It should be known that the wizards would give a good reward if they sold the things in good condition in the secret realm. He did not pay much attention to the city hall's warning that the ruins were dangerous and that they would report it immediately after discovering it. In his opinion, the city hall wanted to scare them because they wanted the things in the ruins. As for the dangers in the ruins, these adventurers knew very well that as long as they were careful, there would not be any big problems. After all, the magic equipment here had basically lost its effectiveness after thousands of years. Be careful. A cry of alarm sounded. All of a sudden, a dense fog appeared in the surroundings and spread rapidly. In the fog, some black shadows quickly pounced on them. The sudden change caught these adventurers off guard, and a few of them were killed directly before they could react. It's a mutant monster, everyone be careful. Quick, get close. Be careful of their sneak attack. Under the cover of the fog, the mutant monsters quickly launched attacks, constantly attacking the adventurers. In a short time, the situation became very dangerous. Be careful, retreat. Carlos roared and rushed forward. The two scimitars in his hands exuded a chilling aura. He waved them like a windmill and slashed at the mutant monster. Blood flew everywhere as a howl sounded out. Following this, countless saber lights flashed out, and 10 or so gashes appeared on the mutated monster's body, and one of its claws was cut off. Carlos had no intention of letting it go. His figure flashed and rushed up again. A sharp blade light flashed, and the mutated monster's huge head was chopped off. Only then did Carlos breathe a sigh of relief. Even he could not sustain such a high-intensity outburst for a short period of time. Although he had successfully killed one of the mutated monsters, the situation he was facing did not improve at all. More and more mutated monsters were rushing over from the fog. Let's go. Seeing this, Carlos's expression changed greatly, and he immediately shouted for retreat. The surrounding adventurers did not hesitate and immediately retreated. Blazing sun style. A warrior monk clasped his hands together, and in the next second, a dazzling flame erupted from his body. A violent explosion sounded out, and the scorching flames were filled with a holy aura. A mutated monster was directly sent flying, and the flames continued to burn its body. Black blood slowly seeped out of its head and ears. Evidently, it was not going to survive. The surrounding fog also dispersed a little. Slash. Another warrior heavily slashed down, killing a mutated monster. Then, without taking a breather, he immediately rushed out. Charge. A dwarf covered in steel armor rode a strong male goat and rushed out, waving the axe in his hand. A few adventurers immediately followed. Expeditious steps. Gale potion. Seeing that the situation was urgent, Carlos directly opened a bottle of light red potion and had the dwarf gulp it down. A bitter taste instantly filled his mouth, and a powerful force instantly entered his body. Carlos's originally very fast speed once again rose to another level. The scimitar in his hand danced even faster, and the charging mutated monster was directly cut into 10 or so pieces. There were a lot of mutated monsters in the fog. They had a total of 18 people in this operation, including 2 warrior monks, a dwarf ram knight, 3 rogues, 2 rangers, and 5 warriors. Although the city hall indicated that the danger level of this mission was 5 stars, they did not take it to heart. Although these people were few, the whole team was made up of experienced adventurers. Even if they faced enemies more than 3 times their number, they could easily deal with them. But this time, the number of enemies was too much. You guys retreat first. I'll cover the rear. Another warrior monk saw that the situation was urgent. If they did not escape as soon as possible, they would probably be completely surrounded and killed here. Sunlight burst. Phoenix flame. A dazzling light burst out in an instant, and then infinite flames appeared from his body, instantly turning into a circle of flames that rushed in all directions. Wherever it passed, all the fog dissipated, and even the mutated monsters hiding in the fog were burned to ashes. The surrounding bushes and weeds were cleared in an instant. The figure of the warrior monk suddenly soared into the air, kicking out a series of afterimages in midair. Then, the gravel flew out like a cannonball. The chi energy attached to the gravel caused cracks to appear on the gravel tens of meters away. Although those mutated monsters were strong, several of them were killed in an instant under the warrior monk's attack, and a path was opened at once. Let's go. Seeing the passage that appeared, the surrounding adventurers did not hesitate at all. They waved their swords and rushed directly to the gap. In the face of crisis, these people burst out with powerful strength in an instant. Diamond body. After seeing everyone rushing up, the warrior monk did not dare to delay. Although the strength of a mutated monster was not strong, a large number of them could still exhaust him here. Wind step. The warrior monk shouted in a low voice, and his body was like a tornado, rushing out in an instant. The surrounding mutated monsters could not stop him at all. The warrior monk stepped on these mutated monsters with the tip of his foot. Let's go. The warrior monk's figure shot out from the crowd, and he said with a dignified expression, let's leave here first. Find a safe place to inform Northern Town City. The problem here is not something we can solve. Chapter 538. Carlos was very excited. Although the battle was short, they had suffered a lot of casualties. He had no time to regret it. He had to send the news back as soon as possible. His brothers had suffered a lot of casualties, and they needed a lot of money as compensation. The battle just now had caused quite a commotion. It was very likely that other adventurers would notice them. Whoever completed the quest first would get all the rewards. If they were late, they might not even get a single copper coin. We need to hurry. We can't let others get ahead of us. Carlos said as he rubbed his head. No matter what, we have to be the first to send the news back. We have suffered a lot this time. Many of our brothers have died. We need this money to send them back as compensation. This is the only thing we can do to help them. Boss, we know what to do. A warrior said. I won't say anything else. Let's go. Carlos said as he ran towards the northern city. The others looked at each other and followed closely behind. North Wind Tower. Sulan had resumed his daily routine. He would patrol the city or Maple City every day and draw some blueprints for the city. In the afternoon, he would read books and learn all kinds of magic knowledge. As a wizard, Sulan needed to learn a lot of knowledge. Luckily, he had the ability, Sage, which allowed him to learn very quickly. Otherwise, the knowledge would be enough to give him a headache. The construction of Maple City had been completed. It was now the gateway to the west of the Duchy of North Wind. All the caravans heading to the northern city would go through here. It was a lot safer for caravans to go through Maple City. With the existence of Maple City, the number of bandits and monsters in the wilderness had decreased a lot. At the same time, the road between Maple City and the northern city had been repaired, so it was a lot easier to travel. The road from Northern Town City to Maple City was one of the main roads in Northern Town City. It was more than 50 kilometers long and 4 meters wide. It was wide enough for 2 carriages to travel side by side. The entire road was paved with pebbles. The middle of the road was slightly arched. Camel beasts pulled stone rollers back and forth to grind the pebbles. Even on a rainy day, there would be no puddles or mud on the road. This road was already better than 99% of the roads in other countries. In order to repair this official road, Sulan had used more than 50,000 slaves of all kinds and spent half a year to complete it. This kind of official road was better than other countries in this era. Compared to his previous life, not to mention the main roads in the city, even the roads in the countryside could not compare. In addition to these, Sulan continued to accumulate all kinds of construction materials, preparing to send these things to Deepwater City. At the same time, the port in North Town City was being expanded. If the trade channel was opened, the small port in North Town City would not be enough. Sulan had people expand the port by 10 times and added several docks for loading and unloading goods. At the same time, the road leading to the port was being widened and repaired. Sulan attached great importance to this new city. It was likely to be another important source of income for North Town City. In addition to the docks at the port, the shipyard in North Town City also needed to be expanded. Sulan had moved part of the shipyard to Deepwater City, but there also needed to be a shipyard in North Town City. The shipyard in Deepwater City built seagoing ships. The requirements for the ships were very high, and the keel had to be strong. The shipyard in North Town City mainly built inland ships. There was a big difference between inland ships and seagoing ships. The most important thing was that inland ships had flat bottoms, while seagoing ships had V-shaped bottoms. Inland ships could carry more goods because of the flat bottoms, but they were less stable and could easily capsize in big waves. Of course, it was impossible for ships to encounter big waves like the ones in the sea. Seagoing ships had to sail in the sea, and the waves in the sea were completely incomparable to those in inland rivers. The mountain-like waves could easily overturn and smash inland ships. Therefore, in order to stabilize the ship, seagoing ships had to use V-shaped bottoms. At the same time, the ship had to be very strong. Otherwise, it would fall apart when the waves came. Under normal circumstances, seagoing ships would not enter inland rivers. Seagoing ships were too deep in the water, and inland rivers were too shallow. They could easily hit rocks if they were not careful. North Town City had been recruiting workers from Florence during this time, and they had a lot of craftsmen. Although a group was sent to Deepwater City, it was not difficult for the rest to build a shipyard. In addition to these things in North Town City, Sulan also needed to deal with things in the secret plane. Now, the secret plane had the obsidian factory, the golem factory, the ecological park, the plantation area, the crystal beast breeding area, the central square, under repair, the residential area, the botanical garden, with natural oaks, and so on. It would definitely need to be built in the future, and the location of the secret plane had to be planned. At the same time, Sulan also needed to think about how to move the secret plane to the floating city in the future and open up a half-plane. Milky Way. Check the structure of the energy transmission network of the secret plane. See if it meets the requirements and if there are any areas that can be optimized. Sulan put down the pen in his hand and looked at the dense underground energy transmission network in front of him. He fell into deep thought. The energy source of the secret plane was in the central area. There was a large elemental pool here, so there must be a perfect energy transmission pipeline to supply energy to other places. Efficiency must be considered in this design. If the energy transmission was too wasteful, it would put a burden on the elemental pool. As for the other elemental pool, it was responsible for supplying energy to the golem factory. Start calculating. A series of data streams appeared, and Milky Way started calculating the current energy transmission network of the secret plane. She also marked the location of the central crystal and made modifications to it. Knock, knock, knock. At this time, there was a rush of knocking on the door. Sulan frowned and opened the door to the astrology platform. Alex's excited voice came through. Sulan, news from the city hall. They found the ruins. A group of adventurers found the ruins you are looking for. There are a lot of mutant monsters around the ruins. We may be in for a tough battle. Mutant monsters. Suluan was shocked. He stopped Milky Way's calculations and asked, "You found the ancient ruin? How intact are the ruins? The adventurers haven't gone in yet. There are mutant monsters guarding outside the ruins. There is also a layer of magic outside the ruins that hasn't lost its effect. Only a small part of it has appeared outside. Tell the adventurers that the ruins they found are very damaged." You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.